The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland, carrying knives of ice that cut against every step. Snow swirled in thick clouds, erasing the world around them. Jace pulled his hood tighter and forced his boots forward, each step sinking into the endless white. Behind him, 3 others struggled, their outlines barely visible in the storm. They were explorers, but tonight survival itself was the only mission. Their supplies were running thin, and the storm had risen without warning. Shelter was far away, and the cold was already seeping through their clothes, biting deep into their bones. Every breath turned to frost on their faces. The storm was merciless. Jace raised a gloved hand and signaled to stop. The group gathered close, their bodies pressed against the wind, faces pale with exhaustion. One of them, Mara, shouted through the storm, her voice trembling. "If we don't find shelter soon, we won't make it." Jace looked around. There was nothing but snow, rolling hills of ice, and the endless storm. But then, as his boots sank into another drift, he felt something strange. It was not solid ground, it was soft. Too soft. He crouched, brushing away the snow with his numb hands. At first it was only ice, frozen lumps mixed with frost. But then, under the thick layer, he saw a color that did not belong to the snow, a faint shade of pale blue. "Here," Jace called out, his voice urgent. The others rushed to him, their eyes widening as he cleared more of the snow. Slowly the shape emerged. A body. Small. Fragile. An alien girl, curled tightly as though she had fought the storm until the very last breath. Her skin glowed faintly in the cold, her thin clothes torn, her lips blue from the freeze. Mara gasped. "She's still breathing." They bent closer. Yes, a faint mist of air trembled at her lips, weak but alive. The storm howled louder, as if to steal that fragile life away. "What do we do?" one of the men asked, fear and doubt in his eyes. "We can barely save ourselves." Jace felt the weight of the choice. Leaving her would be easy, and maybe it was the only way to survive. Yet as he looked at the child's trembling form, his heart answered before his mind could. He slipped off his heavy cloak and wrapped it around her small body. "We carry her," he said firmly. "We don't leave her here." Mara nodded without hesitation, pulling the girl closer to her chest. The child's skin was ice cold, her pulse weak like a whisper. But when Mara's warmth touched her, the alien girl's eyes fluttered for a moment, then closed again. The group pushed on, the storm pressing harder against them, snow piling higher with each step. Their legs ached, their fingers burned, but every time they thought about stopping, they looked at the fragile life in Mara's arms. The snow was cruel. It buried their tracks behind them, making them feel lost even as they moved forward. The ice, storm's roar drowned their voices, forcing them to move by signals and glances. Fear pressed on them heavier than the snow. Would they survive the night, or would the storm swallow them all? At one point, the alien girl stirred again, a faint whimper escaping her lips. It was not in any language they knew, just a broken sound of pain and fear. But it made their hearts clench tighter. She was alive, and as long as she breathed, they could not abandon her. Jace led them onward, scanning the white horizon for anything, any crack, any cave, any shadow that could mean shelter. His legs felt like stone, his chest burned with every breath, but he forced himself not to stop. The thought of leaving the girl was unbearable. The minutes dragged like hours, each second was a battle. Their strength was fading, but hope, thin as it was, kept them moving. Finally, Jace saw it, a dark shape rising through the storm, a cliff face half buried in snow. He waved his arm, shouting, "There!" The group turned, pushing themselves, harder, stumbling forward as the storm fought to blind them. The cliff loomed closer, its rocks jagged but real, and there, at its base, a shallow cut into the stone. A cave. Not deep, but enough to shield them from the worst of the storm. Mara collapsed to her knees inside, cradling the alien girl. Her chest rose and fell with painful weakness, but she was alive. Alive because they had chosen not to walk away. Jay slumped against the wall, his heart pounding. His breath came in ragged bursts, but a fire lit in his eyes. They had saved her, for now. Yet the storm was not done, and the cold still clawed at their bones. The real fight for life had only just begun. The cave gave them a moment of relief, but it was not enough. The storm still howled outside, and the air inside was almost as cold as the snow itself. Their bodies shook. Their breaths came out in clouds of white mist, and frost clung to their clothes. The alien girl lay motionless in Mara's arms, her skin still icy, her chest rising with fragile effort. Jace looked at the others. Their faces told the truth. Everyone was exhausted. Everyone was freezing. If they sat still for too long, the cold would claim all of them. He pressed his hand against the alien child's neck. Her pulse was barely there. "She won't survive like this," Jace said. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. "We have to give her warmth or she'll be gone before morning." The others shifted uneasily. One of them, Ren, shook his head. "And what about us? We're almost frozen ourselves. We don't even have firewood. If we burn our strength to keep her alive, who saves us?" Mara tightened her hold on the girl, glaring at him. "She's alive because of us. If we leave her now, then all this—" She gestured at their frozen bodies. "Their struggle through the storm is for nothing." Silence filled the cave. The wind roared outside, pressing against the stone as though trying to crush them all. Each of them knew Ren had a point, but none could meet the alien child's face and choose death for her. Jay stood, pulling off his gloves. His hands burned as the icy air bit into his skin, but he ignored the pain. He knelt beside Mara and placed his hands over the girl's trembling shoulders. "We give what we can. She needs our warmth more than we do." The others hesitated, but slowly they joined. Coats were loosened, hands pressed against the girl's body, and one by one they huddled close, creating a shield of human heat around her. Their bodies touched, their breaths mingled, and though the cold tried to seep in, the warmth between them grew. At first it felt hopeless. The girl's body remained stiff and cold, her breathing shallow. But after long minutes there was a change. A faint stir, a tiny twitch of her fingers, a small sigh as warmth returned bit by bit. Mara's eyes lit with hope. "She's fighting," Mara whispered, her lips almost numb. "She wants to live." Ren gritted his teeth but kept pressing close. "Then we keep her alive." The minutes stretched into hours. The cold never left the cave, but their combined warmth built a fragile barrier against death. Every few moments one of them shifted, forcing circulation back into their own limbs before pressing closer again. The alien girl stirred more, her eyelids flickering, though she never truly woke. Jace listened to the storm outside. It pounded with rage, snow piling against the cave entrance. The walls trembled under the weight. He knew the storm would last until dawn, maybe longer. The question burned in his mind. Could they survive until then? As exhaustion settled in, whispers filled the darkness. Mara told stories to keep herself awake. Stories of her own little sister back home, of nights when she used to hold her close during winter storms. Ren admitted he once swore never to risk his life for anyone again. But now he could not turn away from this child. Their voices carried not just words, but warmth of another kind, the warmth of humanity, refusing to surrender. The alien girl moved again. This time her eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. She looked at the humans surrounding her, her gaze weak but filled with something unspoken. She tried to form words, but only a faint sound escaped her lips. No one understood her language, yet the meaning was clear. She knew they were saving her. She knew she was not alone. Jace pressed his hand gently against her forehead, whispering, "Hold on. We've got you." The storm raged on. Snow crashed against the entrance, threatening to bury them alive. But the group held tight, bodies pressed together, giving every bit of warmth they had left. Their survival was uncertain. Yet in that moment, none of them cared only about themselves. They had chosen to fight the cold, not just for their own lives but for hers, and in the frozen silence of the cave something stronger than fire burned. Hope. The storm outside refused to end. Hours passed, yet the wind still screamed like a beast hungry for life. Snow pressed against the cave entrance, creeping in little by little, reminding them that the shelter was only temporary. The humans were shivering, their bodies drained, but none dared to pull away from the alien girl. Her breathing had grown steadier, her skin a little warmer, but her life still hung on the edge of the storm. Jace sat against the cold wall, staring at the narrow cave around them. The stone was hard, rough, and frozen, but it gave him an idea. He pushed himself up, ignoring the ache in his legs. His hand ran across the wall until it found a crack, a thin seam running deep into the rock. "This cave is shallow," he said, his voice hoarse. "If the storm piles too much snow outside, we'll be buried. We need to go deeper." Ren frowned, his teeth chattering. "And what if it collapses on us? What if there's nothing inside but more ice?" Jace met his eyes firmly. "If we stay here, we freeze. If we dig, maybe we live." The choice was clear, and though fear tightened their throats, they nodded. With numb fingers, they began to scrape at the cracks in the stone, using knives, broken gear, and their own bleeding hands. The rock was brittle in places, ice filling the gaps. Each strike echoed, the sound swallowed quickly by the storm. Time felt endless. Their muscles screamed with exhaustion, but finally a section of stone gave way, revealing a narrow tunnel. Cold air rushed from within, but it was not the killing wind of the storm. It was still, heavy, and promising. Jace went first, crawling through the jagged opening. His lantern threw dim light ahead, flickering across walls carved by ancient ice. The tunnel bent downward, leading to a chamber hidden inside the cliff. When he reached the end, he froze. The chamber was larger than he expected, a hollow pocket in the ice itself. Crystals shimmered faintly, reflecting his lantern like stars trapped beneath the earth. It was still cold, but compared to the storm, outside it felt like safety. "Here," Jace called, his voice echoing. "Bring her." One by one, the others crawled through, passing the alien girl carefully into Mara's arms. When they entered the chamber, their breaths caught in wonder. The shimmering ice made the place glow, soft blue light dancing on every surface. For the first time since the storm began, the humans felt a touch of peace. They laid the alien girl on a blanket, pressing close again to share warmth. Her eyes fluttered open briefly, glowing faintly as she gazed at the shimmering chamber. Her lips parted as though she recognized something about this hidden place, but her voice was too weak to speak. Ren looked around uneasily. "This place, it doesn't feel natural, like it wasn't carved by chance." Mara glanced at him. "You think it's part of her world, her people?" "Maybe," Ren muttered, his eyes fixed on the alien girl. "Or maybe it's a grave, and we just stepped into it." Jace shook his head. "Whatever it is, it's shelter, that's all that matters tonight." They worked quickly, piling their gear near the entrance to block the worst of the cold, arranging themselves in a circle around the girl. Exhaustion hung over them, but something about the glowing chamber stirred a strange strength. The walls seemed to hum faintly, a sound just on the edge of hearing, like a heartbeat deep within the ice. The alien girl stirred again, her hand twitching as if reaching for the walls. Her glowing eyes opened wider this time, and a soft sound escaped. Her throat. Not pain, not fear, but something else, recognition. Mara leaned close. "What is it? Do you know this place?" The girl's lips moved, forming words none of them understood. But when her hand touched the ice, the walls shimmered brighter, the faint hum growing stronger. The humans exchanged uneasy looks. The storm roared outside, but in this chamber something older than the blizzard was awakening. Jace pressed his hand on the alien girl's shoulder gently, grounding her. "Save your strength. Whatever this place is, it's keeping us alive. That's enough for now." The girl closed her eyes again, but the faint glow of the chamber remained. The humans leaned against each other, their eyes heavy, yet alert. They knew the storm could last for days and food was running thin. But for the moment they were alive, hidden in a shelter carved not by human hands but by something unknown. Ren muttered, almost to himself, We thought we were saving her, but maybe she's the one saving us. The storm screamed louder, snow crashing against the cliff. Yet deep inside the glowing chamber, the humans held the alien girl close, hearts beating in rhythm with the faint hum of the ice. The fight was not over, but for the first time they believed they could endure. The chamber glowed faintly, the icy walls shimmering like 1,000 frozen stars. The storm outside raged on, but in the hidden shelter the world felt quieter, as though the ice itself had sealed them away from death. The humans huddled close around the alien girl, their breaths mixing in small clouds of white, their bodies pressed together for warmth. The faint hum from the walls continued, steady and strange, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Jace sat closest to the alien girl, watching her fragile chest rise and fall. Each breath was weak but no longer desperate. Her skin, once blue with cold, now carried a faint glow beneath its pale surface, as if her body was drawing strength not only from their warmth, but also from the chamber itself. Mara stroked the child's hair gently, her eyes soft. "She reminds me of my little sister," she whispered, "the way her hands curl when she sleeps. I used to hold my sister's hand the same way when storms scared her at night." Her voice carried more than memory. It carried humanity itself, warmth born not from fire but from love. The others listened, their silence heavy with thoughts of families left behind, of children, of lives beyond this frozen wasteland. Ren shifted uncomfortably, rubbing his arms. "Don't do that," he muttered. "Don't talk about home. It makes this harder." Mara looked at him, her eyes steady. "Maybe that's why we need to talk about it. To remind ourselves why we're here, why we chose not to leave her in the snow." Ren's jaw tightened, but his eyes flickered. He looked at the alien girl, her glowing skin soft under the lantern light. He didn't speak again, but his silence was less harsh now. The alien girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open. The humans leaned closer, holding their breath. Her gaze moved slowly from face to face, her eyes glowing faintly as they rested on each human. She whispered something, soft, broken, in a language none of them knew. The sound was weak, yet filled with meaning. Jace bent close, shaking his head. "We don't understand," he said gently. "But we're here. You're safe." The girl blinked, then raised her hand weakly. She touched Jace's chest, just over his heart, and left her hand there for a moment. Her lips trembled as she whispered again. Though the words were foreign, the gesture was not. She knew they had given their warmth. She knew they had shared life. Mara's eyes filled with tears. "She understands," she said softly. "Not our words, but us. What we gave her." For a long time, no one spoke. The storm roared in the distance, the chamber hummed faintly, and the humans simply sat in silence, united by something greater than language. Later, when exhaustion pressed on them, Jace told a story. His voice was low, steady, as though he were speaking to himself as much as to the others. He spoke of his father, who had once pulled a stranger from a burning wreck, risking his own life for someone he had never known. "He told me," Jace said, "that sometimes the only thing that keeps us human is choosing to save what we don't have to." Mara leaned closer to the alien girl, whispering softly, "That's what we're doing now." The child listened with half-closed eyes, her breathing calmer, her small hand twitching as though she wanted to hold theirs but didn't have the strength. The walls of the chamber shimmered again, brighter this time. The hum deepened, a steady rhythm that seemed to respond to their voices, to their stories, to their humanity. The humans exchanged uneasy looks, but none pulled away. Instead, they continued to speak, their whispers filling the chamber. They spoke of hope, of losses, of the things that drove them to survive in this cold world. They whispered memories of laughter and tears, of family and sacrifice. Each word seemed to sink into the walls, echoing faintly like music inside the ice. Ren finally broke his silence, his voice raw. "I swore I'd never save anyone again. I lost too much last time. But tonight, looking at her. I couldn't walk away. The alien girl's eyes opened once more. She gazed at him, her lips parting as if to speak, but instead she placed her small hand weakly against his arm. It was not words, but it was enough. Ren lowered his head, shame and relief mixing in his eyes. The storm outside screamed with fury, but in the chamber, something else had grown. A bond, fragile but unbreakable, forged not by blood or species but by choice. Humanity had whispered into the cold, and the cold had whispered back. As they settled into uneasy rest, Jace knew one truth. They were no longer just keeping her alive. She was keeping them human. The humans had drifted into restless half-sleep, huddled in the glowing chamber with the alien girl at the center. The faint hum of the ice kept them calm, though unease still clung to the air. The storm outside had not stopped. It screamed through, the night like a beast clawing at the cliff, shaking the walls with every gust. Jace's eyes snapped open when he felt a deep rumble under the ground. The sound was not from the girl or the chamber. It was from above. Snow and ice groaned heavily, shifting with dangerous weight. He pushed himself up quickly, shaking the others awake. "Get up," he hissed. "Something's happening." The next moment, the cave trembled violently. A thunderous crack split the air, and snow poured into the tunnel they had crawled through. Earlier, the storm had piled too much weight on the cliff, and now it was collapsing inward. Mara clutched the alien girl tightly as shards of ice crashed from the ceiling. The chamber shook, sending them stumbling against the walls. Ren grabbed a broken pack and shoved it against the opening of the tunnel to slow the flow of snow, but it was no use. The storm was burying them alive. "We have to hold the entrance," Jace shouted over the roar. "If the tunnel seals, we'll run out of air." The group rushed to the narrow tunnel, their bodies pressed against the ice as they tried to push back the snow. Their hands burned from the cold, their muscles weak with exhaustion, yet they fought desperately. Every handful of snow they cleared seemed to be replaced by more, pouring in like a flood. The alien girl stirred in Mara's arms, her glowing eyes opening wide. She made a sound, sharp, urgent. Her small hand reached toward the shimmering walls, and suddenly the hum of the chamber grew louder. The ice itself trembled, but this time not from collapse. The walls seemed to respond to her. Light rippled across the chamber, brighter and stronger than before. Ren froze, his arms buried in snow. "What is she doing?" "I don't know," Mara whispered, holding the child closer. "But maybe she's trying to help." The girl pressed her palm against the icy floor. The hum deepened, and the flow of snow at the tunnel slowed, as though an unseen barrier had formed. The humans stared in awe, their fear mixing with disbelief. Jace recovered first. "Don't stop. Clear as much as you can while it holds." They shoveled with their bare hands, digging furiously to keep the tunnel open. The barrier held only for moments, flickering as the girl's strength wavered, but it was enough to buy them time. Their lungs burned, their hands bled, but they refused to stop. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, the collapse eased. The storm still howled outside, but the flow of snow slowed to a trickle. The tunnel was blocked, halfway, but there was still a gap where air seeped through. It was enough to survive. They collapsed to the ground, gasping, their bodies shaking with exhaustion. Mara held the alien girl, brushing snow from her hair. The child's glow was dim now, her energy spent. She had given everything she had to hold back the storm for them. "She saved us," Mara whispered, her voice breaking. "Without her, we'd be buried already." Ren sat back, his chest heaving. For once, there was no argument in him. He only looked at the girl with a mixture of gratitude and fear. Jace leaned against the wall, wiping blood from his scraped hands. "The storm wants to bury us, but she won't let it. As long as she's with us, we have a chance." The chamber was quiet again, though the storm roared beyond the walls. The humans exchanged weary glances, knowing this was not the end. The storm would keep testing them, keep pressing until either they broke or dawn arrived. But now they understood something they had not before. The alien girl was not just a fragile life they were protecting. She was part of the fight. She was their ally against the cold, a small spark of strength hidden beneath the snow. As they huddled together once more, the storm's fury echoed above, but the humans did not feel hopeless anymore. Their bond with the alien girl had grown stronger, forged in danger and sacrifice. Together they would endure. And though none spoke it aloud, each of them felt the same truth burning inside. This was no ordinary child. She was something far greater, and the storm's wrath was only the beginning of what awaited them. The storm raged above, but inside the hidden chamber, silence returned, heavy and deep. The tunnel was half buried, snow still seeping through the cracks, but the collapse had slowed. For now they had air. For now they were alive. The humans sat in a circle, exhausted, their bodies pressed close to keep the alien girl warm. Her glow had dimmed after she used her strength to stop the collapse, but she was still breathing, her fragile chest rising steadily in Mara's arms. Jace watched her closely. He could not stop replaying what he had seen, the way the ice had responded to her touch, the way the walls had shimmered brighter when she pressed her hand against them. It was no accident. Somehow this child had a bond with the frozen world around them. "She's not just surviving with us," he said softly. "She's fighting with us." Mara brushed a strand of icy hair from the girl's face. "She's just a child," she whispered. "But she saved us all. I don't understand how." Ren shook his head. His voice was low, rough, but no longer full of doubt. "Doesn't matter how. What matters is she didn't let us die." The girl stirred, her glowing eyes opening slightly. She looked at each of them in turn, her lips trembling as though trying to speak. But instead of words, she reached out with a weak hand. She touched Jace's arm first, then Mara's, then Ren's. It was slow, clumsy, but there was no mistaking her meaning. Gratitude, trust. Mara's throat tightened. She caught the girl's hand and held it gently between her own. "You're safe," she whispered, though she knew the child couldn't understand her words. "You're safe with us." The hum of the chamber deepened for a moment, as if the walls themselves approved of the bond forming between them. The glow around the girl flickered faintly, reflecting in the ice. Time dragged slowly. The humans shared what little food remained. Small, rations barely enough for themselves. Yet when the girl stirred, Mara broke her piece in half and pressed it to her lips. The child's glowing eyes studied her for a long moment. Then she accepted the offering, chewing weakly. Ren frowned. "We don't have enough for all of us. If the storm lasts another day, we'll find a way," Mara said quickly, her voice sharp. "She eats first. If she dies, all of this means nothing." For once, Ren didn't argue. He only nodded, his face grim. The hours passed in uneasy calm. The storm continued to batter the cliff, but the chamber held. The humans spoke in quiet, voices telling pieces of their lives as though the act itself gave them strength. Mara spoke of her sister. Jace spoke of his father. Ren, after long silence, finally admitted he had once lost his family to a winter storm, back on another world. His voice cracked when he spoke, but the girl's small hand reached for him again, glowing faintly against his skin. Something shifted in him. His eyes softened, his shoulders lowered, and for the first time since the storm began, he smiled faintly. "She understands," Ren whispered. "Not the words, but the pain. She knows." Jace nodded. "And she's choosing us, just like we chose her." The bond between them grew stronger with every heartbeat, fragile but unbreakable. The girl was no longer a stranger, no longer just an alien child they had found in the snow. She was part of them now, bound by survival, by sacrifice, by something deeper than language. When exhaustion overcame them, they leaned against each other, the girl cradled safely in their circle. Her faint glow lit the chamber like a small fire, keeping back the crushing darkness. Outside, the storm screamed, but inside, hope was alive. As Jace drifted toward sleep, one thought burned in his mind. This bond they had formed, it was fragile, but it was the only thing standing between them and death. And in that fragile bond lay the power to endure. The long night dragged on like a lifetime. The storm outside refused to let go, its furious voice echoing against the cliffs. Yet inside the glowing chamber, the humans endured, their fragile bond with the alien girl keeping them alive when strength alone would have failed. Jace's eyes opened to a faint shift in the air. The chamber felt lighter, as though the weight pressing against it had lifted. The hum in the walls softened, fading into silence. For a moment he feared something was wrong, but then he noticed something he had almost forgotten: the quiet. The storm had ended. He stood quickly, stumbling toward the tunnel. Snow still blocked most of it, but faint beams of light pierced through the cracks. Not lantern light, not the glow of the chamber, but sunlight. He pressed his face against the opening, and cold fresh air rushed in. After endless hours of darkness, the world beyond had changed. "Mara, Ren," he called, his voice breaking. "It's over. The storm is over." Mara's eyes widened as she clutched the alien girl closer. Ren staggered to his feet, his face pale with exhaustion, but burning with hope. Together they pushed against the snow, digging with numb fingers until the tunnel gave way. At last, they crawled through and emerged into the open. The land was unrecognizable. The storm had buried the world in endless white hills of snow stretching as far as the eye could see. The air was sharp, biting, but it carried sunlight that glimmered on the frozen land. For the first time since the night began, warmth touched their faces. Not enough to melt the snow, but enough to remind them life had survived. Mara stepped into the light with the alien girl in her arms. The child's glowing eyes opened slowly, blinking against the sun. She looked at the endless white world around her, then back at the humans who had saved her. Her lips parted, forming a weak sound, soft but filled with meaning. None of them understood the words, yet all of them felt it. Gratitude, recognition, a promise. Ren knelt beside her, shaking his head in disbelief. "We shouldn't be alive," he whispered. "But we are, because of her, because of all of us." Jace placed a hand on his shoulder. "We chose her. She chose us. That's what kept us alive." They stood together at the cliff's edge, their bodies broken, their strength nearly gone. Yet in their hearts burned something stronger than the storm. The fragile bond they had, forged in the chamber, had become their anchor. They had shared warmth, shared breath, shared hope. They were no longer strangers tied by chance. They were survivors bound by something greater. The alien girl shifted in Mara's arms. With trembling effort, she raised her hand toward the sky. Her glow brightened faintly, like a star trying to shine through the snow. The humans watched in silence as her light reached upward, reflecting against the frozen world. It was as if she were calling to the land itself, telling it she had endured. Mara's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "She belongs to something larger than us. But for this storm, for this night, she was ours." Jace nodded. "And we'll carry that forever." The cold still bit at their skin, the snow still stretched endlessly, and the journey ahead was uncertain. But as they began to walk away from the cave, carrying the alien child between them, none of them felt hopeless anymore. They had faced the wrath of the storm and survived, not because of fire or weapons, but because of warmth. The warmth of humanity. Behind them, the chamber lay silent, its glow fading back into the ice as if it had never been. Ahead, the white horizon stretched wide, waiting for their steps. The alien girl nestled close against Mara, her small hand resting on Jace's arm. The storm had tried to bury them, but it had failed. What remained was not just survival, but proof of something far stronger. In the heart of the frozen wasteland, when everything should have been lost, humanity had whispered life back into the cold, and the alien girl, saved by their warmth, had become more than a stranger. She was now a part of them, a fragile bond that would carry through every storm to come.